Greetings of today, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on minorities in India, rights, issues, and challenges. The panel discussion has been called upon to celebrate Minorities' Rights Day, which is observed on December 18th every year. The United Nations on December 18, 1992 adopted and broadcast the Statement on the Individual's Rights belonging to religious or linguistic, national or ethnic minorities. Minority Rights Day upholds the right to freedom and equal opportunities for minorities in India and creates awareness about their rights. Before we go further, let me introduce the eminent personalities who are present here for the discussion. We have Dr. P.S. Munawar Hussain, who has worked as Joint Registrar, Finance Officer, and Registrar in charge. He has presently retired from service and now he is a visiting faculty. We have Dr. Sujit Kumar Choudhary, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Sociology and Social Work, Mahatma Gandhi Central University in Motihari, Bihar, India. We have Dr. Savita Singh Bhaduria, who is a visiting lecturer in Department of Sociology, Barakatullah University, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. Dr. Kshmaa, who is Assistant Professor in Amity Law School, Amity University in Patna, Bihar, India. We have Dr. Prashant Kumar Srivastava, Assistant Professor in Sri Ram Swaroop Memorial University and Distinguished Member, International Council of Jurists, UK. Welcome, respected members. We are pleased to have you here for the discussion. May I request Dr. P.S. Munawar Hussain, sir, to discuss the rights and issues related to minorities in India from the legal point of view. What are the constitutional safeguards for the rights of minorities, sir?
So thank you, Rishu. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right, fine. Thank you very much. Learned panelists and other participants, as far as the legal rights and constitutional rights of minorities in India are concerned, first of all, let us understand what minorities or minority communities, who are the sets or group of people who are called minorities. The Constitution of India does not define minorities. It simply refers as religious and linguistic minorities. So to understand the meaning and definition of minorities, let us search for the international covenants. So then we find the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights of 1966, which says that minorities or minority community is an ethnic, religious, or linguistic group fewer in number than the rest of the population. Then a minority is a group with linguistic, ethnic, or cultural characteristics which distinguish it from the majority. And secondly, a minority is a group which usually not only seeks to maintain its identity, but also tries to give a stronger expression to that identity. Then comes the United Nations Declaration on Minorities of 1992. Under Article 1 of that declaration, it defines that the minorities as a small group of people having national, ethnic, cultural, religious, or linguistic identity, and provides that the state should protect their existence. So am I clear now? Am I audible?
Yes,
Can
sir.
we move on? Can we go ahead?
Yes,
Right,
sir.
fine. Thank you. Then comes a judgment of the Supreme Court of India in TMA Pai Foundation versus State of Karnataka. In that, the definition of minority shall be in relation to a particular state or union territory. And the Supreme Court observed that linguistic and religious minorities are covered by the expression minority under Article 30 of the Constitution. Since the reorganization of the states in India has been on the linguistic lines, therefore, for the purpose of determining the minority, the unit shall be state and not the whole of India. This is what the Supreme Court observed in TMA Pai Foundation. Now let us move on. Then the characteristics that make minority group distinctive and vulnerable are language, religion, culture, etc. Even gender and all those things shall be covered under this. Transgenders, something like that. The minority community shall be determined in relation to their power equations with majority community. Here, I am expressing this power and equations because there are certain minorities who are very rich and wealthy and they have their own power and equations. Say, for example, the Parsis. Parsis are very small minority community, but they have a strong equations and power and expression with that. So that, as in terms of the legal provisions or the constitutional provisions, first of all, we find Article 14 here, which is the extension of the rights entered in the preamble. And our constitution says that the state shall not deny to any person equality before the law and shall provide equal protection for every person within its territory of India. Through this article, it protects both minorities and majority. This provision is there for everyone. That is equality before law. That is right against discrimination. Then comes Article 16. Article 16 gives equality of opportunity. In the Supreme Court of India, in Venkateramana versus State of Madras, observe that Clause 4 of Article 16 only permits a reservation of backward classes of citizens who are not, in the opinion of the state, adequately represented in the services of the state. It does not permit reservation for any person who does not belong to the category of backward classes. Here, that it is equality before law and equality of opportunity and all those things. Again, the Supreme Court in Rajendra versus Union of India held that the elaboration of the principles of classification which is inherent in clause 1 is to be adhered to. The famous case of Indra Sahane versus Union of India comes next, wherein the Supreme Court observed that clause 4 of Article 16 is exhaustive of the concept of the reservation in favor of backward classes. It does not follow, however, that clause 1 does not permit any reservation. This is all about the reservation and equality of opportunity. We need not elaborately discuss about this. Then we will move on to the next provision, that is Article 25 of the Constitution, which ensures freedom of conscience and religion. It says that subject to public order and morality and health, and to the other provisions of this part, all persons are equally entitled to the freedom of conscience and right to freely profess, practice, and propagate the religion. This article guarantees that every person in India shall have the freedom of conscience and shall have the right to profess, practice and propagate their religion, subject to the restrictions imposed by the state on the following groups, that is, public order, morality, health, etc. And we come across another case, Reverend Stanislas versus State of MP, wherein the High Court of Madhya Pradesh observed that since the freedom belongs to every person, the freedom of one cannot encroach upon a similar freedom belonging to other persons. Hence, punishing forcible or fraudulent conversions would not be violative of this article. Then next comes a seven-judge bench of the Supreme Court, and in Hindu religious endowments versus Lakshmendra Tirtha Swamina. And then comes the Ratilal Premchand Gandhi versus the State of Bombay, wherein it has been clearly held that every person has a fundamental right under our constitution not merely to entertain such religious belief as may be approved of by his judgment, but to exhibit his belief and ideas in such overt acts as are enjoined and sanctioned by his religion or her religion, and further to propagate his her religious views for the edification of others. This has been reiterated, this observation has been reiterated in the case of Dargah Committee versus Sayyid Hussain Ali in 1961 as well. Okay. Then there are a number of court judgments which we can come across. In another case, Ramji Lal Modi versus State of UP. The Supreme Court held that subject to public order, morality, and health, the freedom of religion is subject to the interest of the public order, so that it would not authorize the outrage of the religious feelings of another class with a deliberate intent. So, then before going to the next article, we will see about some of the Supreme Court rulings and observations. Then comes the judgment of the Supreme Court, a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court in Bombay versus Union of India. It found that the conclusions as to the contents of the secularism under the Indian Constitution on its various relevant provisions, such as Articles 25 to 28, 30, and Article 14 and 16. It is held that notwithstanding the insertion of the word secularism in the preamble in 1976, the scope of secularism has to be gathered from the substantial provisions of the Constitution existing before the said amendment made by the 42nd Amendment of the Constitution. It says that the secularism was inherent in the Constitution of India. The insertion of the word secular through this amendment has formalized the pre-existing situation. Drawing from the foregoing provisions, the majority of the 9-judge bench in Bombay, SR Bombay versus Union of India, has laid down the following ingredients of the secularism under our Constitution. There are just 4 points under this judgment, which they say they are the ingredients of the Constitution. I will just read out. The Constitution provides the establishment of a theocratic state. Next one, not only the state is prohibited to establish any religion of its own, but it is prohibited further to identify itself with or favoring any particular religion, because the state is enjoined to accord equal treatment to all religious and religious sects, all religions and religious sects or denominations. Number 3rd point. On the other hand, secularism under Indian Constitution does not mean an anti-God or atheist society. The 4th point is, it only means the equal status of all religion without any preference in favor of or discrimination against any one of them. So these are the Supreme Court judgment in respect of secularism. Then
Thank
comes
you,
Article
sir.
26. Then comes Article 26. Shall I continue, or there are
Sir,
a few points?
sir, may we move on to the next question?
Acha, next question of from some other panelist.
Yes, sir.
Acha.
Uh, I
I will. Can I take just 2 minutes?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure,
I
sir.
will just conclude it. Then comes Article 26. And 27 contemplates that no person shall be compelled to pay any taxes. Out of that, this is not so important. It is to save time. We'll move on to Article 29. States that no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution wholly maintained out of the state funds. Then comes the Article 29. There is a lot of judgments in under Article 29 if you go through this jurisprudence. In Article 29, it ensures that any sect of citizens residing in the territory of India or any part thereof, having a distinct language, script, or culture of its own, shall have the right to conserve the same. No citizen shall be denied admission into any educational institution maintained or aided by the state on the ground of the religion, relation. This is the observation of in one of the case in Saint Xavier College, etc. Under Saint Xavier College, there are a few judgments, a number of judgments you can say, in respect of minority education as well, because and sometimes the minority educational institutions were exploiting the minorities in by leaning towards capitation fee, giving admissions in admissions, etc. So there are a lot of judgments under that. Then comes Article 30 as well. Article 345 is also there. This article contemplates that subject to the provisions of Article 346 and 347, the legislature of a state may by law adopt any or more of the languages in use in the state, or Hindi as the languages to be used for all or any of the official purposes of that state. There have been some amendments in some of these articles which are related to, then again comes the Article 350 also. This article ensures that every person shall be entitled to submit a representation for the redress of any grievances to any officer or authority of the union or state in any of the languages used in that union or state, as the case may be. So these are some of the provisions that were there, which I thought that I should discuss these things. Then Reshu, we can move on to the, is there any question answer, or we can have the question answer at the latter stage?
We can have the question answers
We
at the
can have
latter
later,
stage.
other panelists also discuss those things. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Fine. Thank you. Over to you now. Reshu.
Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Sujit Kumar Choudhary to shed light on the status of literacy of minorities in India? How are benefits given to minorities in the education sector helpful in their progress?
Very good afternoon to all present in this webinar. Thank you, Resu, for giving me this opportunity. Dear all the esteemed panelists and the participants, today I'm going to reflect on the educational status of minorities in India. Basically, para 10.1 of 13th five-year plan states that education is the single most important instrument for social and economic transformation. A well-educated population adequately equipped with knowledge and skill is not only essential to support economic growth, but it is also a precondition for growth to be inclusive, since it is the educated and skilled person who can stand to benefit most from the employment opportunities which growth will provide. So it is the Ministry of Education has focused as an inclusive agenda with a vision of realizing India's human resource potential to the fullest with equity and excellence. And so far as education is concerned, and education of minorities is concerned, so Article 30 of 1 uh, says that all minorities shall have the right to establish and administer educational institution of their own. So in this regard, the government is committed to address the existing backwardness in education of minorities, especially the Muslims, constituting the major chunk of the minorities. Therefore, the Prime Minister new 15 points programs aims to enhance opportunities for education of minorities, ensuring an equitable share in economic activities and employment. Let me discuss about their population and their percentage of literacy. As you are aware about the fact, minorities, as Professor Hussain already discussed about their definition and other things, constitutional safeguards and constitutional provisions. So here in India, actually, Muslims has a major population of minorities in India, 14.23 as per the 2011 census, and their literacy rate is 68.5%. And the Christians constitute 2.3% population, but their literacy rate is very high, 84.5%. And Sikhs constitutes 1.72% of population of around 80% literacy rate, and so is the case with the other also. And Hindu, which is the majority sections of India, constitute the population 79.8%, of literacy rate 73.3%. So in that case, if we look into the data of the literacy rate, then we find the literacy rate of Muslims are much lower than the other sections of the society. So in the Sachar Committee report, this is also states many backwardness regarding the minorities, especially the Muslims. For instance, take an example as per the Sachar Committee report, 1/4 of Muslim children in the age group of 6 to 14 years have either never attended a school or are dropouts. For children above the age of 17 years, the educational attainment of Muslims at matriculation is only 17%, as against national average of at 26%. So in this regard, we can say that even the Sachar Committee report highlights that the attention to the low levels of educational attainment among the Muslim women. So here, what I found from this report is that there are different kind of backwardness among the Muslim communities, because the literacy rate of other sections of minorities is very good, from the all, whether it's a Christian, Sikhs, Buddhist, Parsis, all are good, even the more than the national literacy rate percentage, and even Hindu. So the only thing is that we can consider about the Muslim communities. They have very backward in all walks of life. So as Professor already pointed out, the what Constitution says about this minorities, and now I'm going to reflect some of the important thing to what the government are doing in this regard. So major issues of minorities education, first I will talk about it. So the low educational attainment, the first issues of the minority education. Second one is low quality of education. because of lack of adequate resources and infrastructure, and also quality of teaching is often very poor. Third one is the discrimination. Muslims, especially, not the all minorities, face discrimination in mainstream schools. Fourth one is the lack of access to higher education under represented, particularly technical and professional fields that I found about it. So, what are these issues? What are the causes of this backwardness insofar as education is concerned? Number one, poverty. So, Muslims communities are disproportionately represented among poor in India. Second one is the social exclusion, face social exclusion, led to their children being denied access to education. And third one is the lack of awareness. Now, come to the next sections. Government attempts to address these issues, what the government has provided and doing for the minority education, especially the Muslims. Number one, providing scholarship and other financial assistance to these people. Second one is that establishing minority schools and colleges. Third one is the providing training and support to teachers in minority school. Fourth one is the creating awareness of the importance of education among the minorities communities. And after that, I'm just going to last point of my questions of this answer, that is scholarship, what kind of scholarship they have provided, especially to the Muslim communities and also other minorities. First is post-matric scholarship. So post-matric scholarship provided to them. Second one is the merit cum means scholarship. Third one is the Maulana Azad National Fellowship for higher education, those who are enrolled in the research program. Fourth one is the Naya Savera, free coaching to these people. Nai Roshni. Sixth one is the Sikho or Kamao, learn and earn. And seventh one is the Nai Udan. So with this word, I'm just and my this speech that as per the National Education Policy 2020 also emphasized on the opening of minority schools and colleges will be encouraged as per the National Education Policy 2020 also. And the alternative forms schools will also be supported under National Education Policy 2020. The provisions for special scholarship to develop the capacity to participate in the educational sphere among minority students have been provided. So it is pointed out in the this report of page number 25. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for discussing the matter in such an elaborated and wonderful way. Now we will meet after a short break. Thank you, all of you. Please join after this break. Welcome back, respected members. May I request Dr. Savita Singh Bhaduria to please discuss the socio-economic status of minorities in India. What measures do you suggest for improving their social conditions? Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Rishu, for inviting me on this platform. It's like a web page के आज हम सभी एक ऐसे मंच पर हैं जहां हम सभी अपनी बात कह पाएंगे. I think Hindi wouldn't be a bar
No,
for
ma'am.
speaking.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Rishu, and thank you all the panelists also. मैं थोड़ी सी लेट इसलिए हुई क्योंकि यूनिवर्सिटी में इत्तेफाक से एक अचानक से प्रोग्राम था. एंड शायद सबसे पहले जब हम ये बात करते हैं कि the question which I have received, that I have to talk about the socio-economic status about the minority in India. तो socio-economic स्टेटस से पहले हमारे भारत को जान ले, इंडिया को जान ले तो ज्यादा बेहतर होगा कि जब हम एक कोटेशन बोलते हैं कि यूनान मिश्र रोमा सब मिट गए यहाँ से, क्या बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दौरे दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. तो इसमें काफी सारे ऐसे इन्वेडर्स, इन सभी के नाम आ जाते हैं जो हमें समझने पड़ेंगे। और कुमुद मुखर्जी, वो जब खुद बोलते हैं कि भारत की सभ्यता संसार के अन्य देशों की सभ्यता से अधिक प्राचीन और प्राणवान है। और ये फैक्ट या ये जो इम्पोर्टेंट क्यों है कि बहुत कम देशों ने विदेशी जातियों के इतने हमलों का सामना किया होगा जितने भी भारतवर्ष में है। ये उतनी ही बड़ी सच्चाई है। तो इस बड़े भूभाग पर आक्रमणों का या युद्धों का या जो विजय है या जो राज्यों का या साम्राज्यों का संगठित होना या विघटित होना, संगठित भी हुए हैं और विघटित भी हुए हैं। क्योंकि भारतीयों का जो स्वभाव और चरित्र की जब हम बात करते हैं तो ये एक आंतरिक प्रभाव कहीं ना कहीं पड़ता है इसका। तो इंडियन सिविलाइजेशन के ऊपर उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा कहा है, या सारांश में हम ये कह सकते हैं कि बहुत सी विदेशी जातियों ने भारतवर्ष पर हमले किए और भारत कईयों बार पराजित भी हुआ है, पर संस्कृति पर विजय प्राप्त बाकी देश नहीं कर पाए हैं। इसको हमने कोरोना काल में भी बहुत अच्छे से समझ लिया है। तर्कों का खंडन भी होता है, सिद्धांतों का खंडन भी होता है, पर उसके साथ उसका मंडन भी होता है। और धार्मिक स्वतंत्रता के ही कारण भाव था भारत का कि उस भाव के कारण जो भी आया, जो भी बाहर से विदेशी जातियां आती चली गई, और उसके बाद में बौद्ध जैन के मतांतर हुए जो आते चले गए। तो ये भारत का एक सहनशीलता का भाव था जो उस समय के लिए वो एप्लीकेबल था। तो ये भारत की कहीं ना कहीं दृष्टि है या उसकी एक अनोखी विशेषता है। और यही यही भाव हमको ऋग्वेद में भी देखने को मिलता है, जहां पर बोला जाता है कि एकम सत विप्रा बहुधा भवंती। हम सभी यहाँ पैनलिस्ट में हैं, सभी बहुत अच्छे अच्छे रिकग्निशन पे हैं, अपने अपने पोस्ट पर हैं। तो सत्य तो एक ही है, हम सभी जानते हैं, और पर हम अपने अपने तरीके से उसको बताने की कोशिश करते हैं। पर जब हम माइनॉरिटी या मेजॉरिटी की बात करते हैं तो ये पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट आता है। पर एज अ सोशियोलॉजिस्ट जब मैं इस पे बात करती हूँ तो हम हमेशा एसिमिलेशन की बात करते हैं सोशियोलॉजी में, वो भी टेक्सचुअल पर्सपेक्टिव के बीच में। चाहे हम अच्छे अच्छे एग्जांपल्स भी देख सकते हैं, चाहे वो रामायण का हो, जब हम ऑब्वियसली कि हम कास्ट सिस्टम, बहुत बार ये फिंगर पॉइंट होती है कि माइनॉरिटी, कास्ट सिस्टम, ये सभी, तो वाल्मीकि का हम रामायण नहीं भूल सकते हैं, या शबरी का राम के साथ में डायलॉग्स नहीं भूल सकते हैं। तो ये चीजें एज अ सोशियोलॉजिस्ट व्हाट आई सी इज द कोऑर्डिनेशन ऑफ द पावर, कोऑर्डिनेशन यानी कि फंक्शनलिज्म ऑफ द सोसाइटी, या एक ब्रदरहुड, इट्स अ यूनिटी ऑफ स्पिरिट। कि क्योंकि भारत की ज्योग्राफी ही ऐसी है, भारत की भूमि ही ऐसी है, क्लाइमेट ही ऐसा है, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली आपका जियोलॉजी ये भी बदल जाता है। तो ये पॉलिटिकल फीचर है ह्यूमन ऑफ लैंग्वेज। ये देश जो एक सोशली वननेस के बारे में बात करता है। मे बी हम रिजले को क्या हम भूल जाएंगे मैडम, कि जब फिजिकल फीचर्स के अकॉर्डिंग, हमारे नाक नक्श के अकॉर्डिंग पूरे भारत को डिवाइड कर दिया, कई सारे रीजन बना दिए गए। तो CAL बुश वो खुद लिखते हैं अपनी बुक, उनकी जो पुस्तक है द वंडर दैट वाज इंडिया, उसमें लिखते हैं कि भूमि की विशालता ध्यान में रखते हुए भारतीय मंदिरों का निर्माण कला विशेष रूप से एक समान है। तो भारत के निवासियों की जब एकता की बातें में बात करेंगे तो विदेशी आक्रमण हुए, उसको हम नहीं निकाल सकते हैं, पर सांस्कृतिक विजय प्राप्त करने के बाद भी अपनी गोद में संभाल करके रखा है। या हम पॉलिटिकल वे में आज अगर हम माइनॉरिटी बोले, चाहे वो पारसी बाहर से आए, यहूदी बाहर से आए, तो उनकी पुस्तक है द फंडामेंटल यूनिटी ऑफ इंडिया, जिसमें उन्होंने वर्ड यूज किया है वृहत भारत। ये वर्ड उनकी ही पुस्तक में यूज है, जिसका मतलब है कि दक्षिण पूर्व की जो भी उपनिवेश हो, चाहे जावा हो, चाहे मलाला हो, सुमित्रा, वर्मा, लंगा, बोर्निया, कंबोडिया, चंपा, ये सभी वहां से हैं। लेकिन भारत ने अपने औपनिवेशिक स्थापित किए और वहां पर भारतीय संस्कृति का साम्राज्य स्थापित किया, और इसको हम एक बड़े तौर पर उसको बृहत भारत कहते हैं, और यही सांस्कृतिक साम्राज्य है। RC मजूमदार, उनका कोटेशन है, उन्होंने खुद लिखा है कि भारत में दक्षिण पूर्व में स्थित एशिया के देशों को सबको बनाए रखने में उतना महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया जितना कि प्राचीन यूनान में समस्त यूरोप को सभ्य बनाने में किया। तो ये तो सभी तर्क हमको मिलते हैं देखने के लिए, और आज भी एशिया इन देशों में भारतीय सभ्यता और संस्कृति के चिन्ह हमको दिखाई देते हैं। जो मूल ग्रंथ है चीन में अनुवाद के तौर पर उपलब्ध है, भारतीय संस्कृति की पूरे तरीके से अपनाया गया। बौद्ध धर्म चीन का सबसे प्रमुख धर्म माना जाता है। यहूदी भारत में कई हजार वर्षों भारत में आए, तो अलग अलग देश से आने के बाद में उनका भारत में आना जारी रहा, और मेन भारत में आने के बाद रुक जाने की वजह भी ये थी कि शायद वहां पर वो जिसको एक वर्ड बोले कि उत्पीड़न होता था, या उस उम्मीद में उन्होंने भारत में कदम रखा कि भारत में अलग अलग जगहों से आकर के, चाहे वो मुंबई हो, गुजरात हो, कोलकाता हो, बड़े बड़े शहरों में रुके। और अगर मैं फर्स्ट पॉइंट जो इससे पहले मुनव्वर सर ने जो पॉइंट्स, काफी सारे पॉइंट्स रखे, वो चीजें पॉइंट्स मैंने भी रखे थे, तो इसलिए मैं उन पॉइंट्स को रिपीट नहीं करूंगी, क्योंकि सर ने पूरा माइनॉरिटी के जो नीड्स को लेकर के, उनके राइट्स को लेकर के पूरी चीजें उन्होंने समझाई है, क्योंकि वो रुक नहीं सकता क्योंकि कल्चरल डिमोलिश ना हो जाए। तो इसलिए भी कहीं ना कहीं माइनॉरिटीज को वो जगह मिली थी कि वो उस कल्चर को संभाल करके रखा जाए। पर दूसरी तरफ आर्टिकल 14 ये कहता है कि इक्वालिटी होनी चाहिए, लाइक शुड बी ट्रीटेड एज अनलाइक। तो मीन्स कि एक क्लास ऑफ सिटीजन्स भी होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर माइनॉरिटी वर्ड हम बोलते हैं तो ये क्लियरली तौर पर कहीं भी डिफाइन नहीं है, किसी भी आर्टिकल ये ऐसा हमको कहीं भी नहीं बताता है, क्योंकि एवरी पर्सन इन इंडिया बिलोंग टू अ माइनॉरिटी कमिटी, 193:1000। तो जो मुस्लिम बहुल कंट्रीज हैं, क्या वहां पर ऐसी कोई पॉलिसीज हैं? या पंजाब में सबसे ज्यादा जो, अगर हम कम्युनिटी की बात करते हैं, या और भी जो इस्लामिक कंट्रीज हैं, क्या वहां पर ऐसी कोई चीजें हैं? तो ये उस समय का भाव था जब हम इस बारे में बात करते हैं। लेकिन आज जब हम बोलते हैं कि लॉ इज अ नेचर, एक चेंज है, लॉ इज अ चेंज, मतलब कहीं ना कहीं ये सोसाइटल चेंज होता चला जाता है। लॉ भी तो सरबादी में हुआ। पहले क्या था, हमारे कस्टमरी लॉज थे, उन कस्टमरी लॉज के मीन्स लॉ आर द कोडिफाइड मोड्स। तो चाहे परिवार हो, फैमिली हो, समाज हो, कम्युनिटी हो, इन सब में वो लॉज अपने आप इम्प्लीमेंट हो करके उसी तरीके से समाज चल रहा था। एंड इंडिया एज अ, जब हम बोलते हैं कि डाइवर्स कंट्री, डाइवर्स बेसिस ऑन व्हाट, क्योंकि हर एक पगडंडी पर पानी बदल जाता है, बोली बदल जाती है, समाज के बोलने के तरीके बदल जाते हैं, कल्चरल हेरिटेज बदल जाता है, पॉपुलेशन बदल जाता है। और आज जब पॉपुलेशन 1.4 बिलियन है, तो ये माइनॉरिटी का जो हम वर्ड है, ये कहीं ना कहीं इसमें बदलाव लाने की जरूरत महसूस होती है। आर्टिकल 29, जहां पर आर्टिकल्स के बारे में सभी ने बात कर लिया, आर्टिकल 29, आर्टिकल 30 कि एक हार्मनी सोसाइटी में होना चाहिए, और जो भी पॉलिसीज हैं उसके, चाहे वो नई रोशनी हो, नई मंजिल हो, उस 7-10 स्कीम्स हैं, और लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट क्वालिटीज हैं, ट्रेनिंग्स हैं, वुमेन्स को एम्पावरमेंट है। तो शायद कहीं ना कहीं माइनॉरिटी की डेफिनेशन बदलने का एक समय है, क्योंकि ये आपको हर जगह फिजिकल कल्चरल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स लिए हुए भारतीय सोसाइटी में हमको देखने को मिलता है। बट 21st सेंचुरी जब हम बात करते हैं, तो इट इज द राइज फॉर द आइडेंटिटी पॉलिटिक्स, कहीं ना कहीं जहां पर इंडिविजुअल्स अपने आप को अलाइन करते हैं इन सम वे इन अ ग्रुप, एंड दे रिप्रेजेंट द सोशल कल्चर या कम्युनिटी इंस्टेड ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इन अ ब्रॉडर व्यू। जहां पर आर्टिकल 14 इक्वालिटी होना चाहिए, आई थिंक शायद मैंने इस पर बात कर ली थी। और भी जो आर्टिकल हमारे 14 से लेकर के 32 तक के आर्टिकल हैं, इन सब के बारे में हमारी बात होती है। लेकिन जब हम नए ग्लोबल ग्रोथ के बारे में अगर हम बात करें, एज अ इंजन अगर बात करें, तो भारत एक इनइक्वल पोजीशनिंग में पूरे कंट्रीज को टुगेदरनेस के बारे में बात करता है। टुगेदरनेस यानी कि, क्योंकि जब हम पूरे कंट्री को वन फैमिली वन अर्थ के तौर पर लेते हैं, तो यहाँ पर एक मल्टीपल चैलेंजेस आते हैं। मल्टीपल चैलेंजेस कहीं ना कहीं जियोग्राफिकल टेंशंस भी हैं। तो ये जो लीडरशिप का एक क्रिटिकली या ब्यूटीफुली तौर पर जो एक कैप्चर किया गया उस थीम को G20 में, दैट वन अर्थ वन फैमिली एंड वन फ्यूचर। तो ये लॉ ऑफ नेचर या लॉ ऑफ चेंज की तरफ को लेकर के जाता है कि वन जब हम बोलते हैं तो दैट व्हाट इट रिप्रेजेंट। तो ये कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिसी मेकर्स के लिए या हम सबको एक ग्लोबल कम्युनिटी की ओर कनेक्ट करता है। या सबसे पहले वन फैमिली की अगर हम बात करें तो वन फैमिली मीन्स सॉलिडारिटी के बारे में बात करते हैं, या कहीं ना कहीं हम प्रोटेक्ट के बारे में बात करते हैं कि किस तरीके से जो हम वर्नेबल लोग हैं उनको हम प्रोटेक्ट कर सके सोसाइटी में, जो अराउंड द वर्ल्ड, नॉट विद इन। हम सिर्फ अपने ही परिवार के बारे में बात करते हैं, एक नैरोअर पर्सपेक्टिव लेकर के चल रहे हैं, जबकि हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि वन फैमिली व्हाट एज अ वन द कंप्लीट ऑल द नेशन। तो फैमिली की जब हम बात करते हैं, इट्स अ सॉलिडारिटी टू प्रोटेक्शन द वर्नेबल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड। जब चाहे नेक्स्ट अगर हम सॉलिडारिटी बोले तो और क्या, इट्स अ बेटर मैकेनिज्म टू रीस्ट्रक्चर द डेट। G20 का एक कॉमन फ्रेमवर्क था जहां पर ये बोला गया कि हाउ टू रीच एन एग्रीमेंट विद द क्रेडिटर्स एट द एंड ऑफ द लास्ट ईयर। चाहे जिम्बाब्वे है, वो घाना है, दे आर प्रोग्रेसिव टुवर्ड्स द डेब्ट रेजोल्यूशंस, बट द ग्राउंड रूल्स क्या कहते हैं वो क्लैरिफाइड होना चाहिए। या क्या प्रोसेस हम बना सकते हैं, उसको कैसे इफेक्टिवनेस में हम लेकर के आ सकते हैं, वो भी बहुत जरूरत है। देन सॉलिडारिटी की अगर हम बात करें तो सॉलिडारिटी को हम अगर सोशियोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव में देखें तो भी एक कि जिसका लो इनकम है या वनरेबल मेंबर्स है सोसाइटी के, वो भी तो हमारी फैमिली का हिस्सा है। उन सबको हम किस तरीके से एक फिनेंशियल तौर पर अपबिल्ड कर सकें। So the time is now to need to stand up and addressing the fundraising shortfalls. So this is from my point. लेकिन और भी कई चीजें कि हम उन चीजों तक थोड़ा सा संकुचित ना रह करके ये देखें कि एक कॉमन तौर पर यूथ के बारे में, वुमेन के बारे में, these are the common things to be discussed.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Vishu.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving an elaborated discussion on the topic. It was so wonderful to hear from you. Thank you so much. Now,
Thank you.
may I request Dr. Kshmaa to please discuss the importance of recognition of the rights of minorities by the Constitution? What are the issues involved in defining religious and linguistic minorities? And what is the role of national bodies and organizations in preserving the rights of minorities?
Thank
Please,
you
ma'am.
so much, Reshu, for giving me opportunity to deal with such a wonderful question, which is the need of the hour. As in the previous year, only the Honorable Supreme Court has given judgment where it has talked about and held that the minority status of the religious and linguistic communities is a state dependent aspect. So I'm just trying to inculcate various aspects of the same point from the historical as well as legal, and what are the issues that are involved. And I'll also cover the national bodies and organizations that are preserving such rights for our citizens. First of all, I would like to introduce you all about the basic problem of this question. The feature of post-colonial governance of India has long been held as a success story of the world's largest democracy, whose citizens enjoy the freedom of speech and religious tolerance. It is seen to have escaped the military dictatorship that has been the fate of so many former colonies, and despite several marks of sectarian conflicts, it continues to be the largest democracy of the world. And we are definitely proud of that. Yet, much of the intellectual work of decent argue that the promise of national emancipation was fulfilled, if not fraudulently, then certainly by the forcible marginalization of many who were supposed to have shared in the fruit of liberalization. As an index of continuity of the exclusionary politics, as many of the panel members have discussed earlier, one may turn to distinct cultural problems of religious minorities. The founding member of the Constitution of India has rejected the idea of clash of civilizations, undermining the partition of India, and proclaimed that every citizen of India, irrespective of religious belief and equality before law, despite such commitment to equality and inclusive society in the new nation state, what we have come to see is the hegemonic paternalism of dominant religious groups, which demarcated its practices and tradition as distinct, not only from the West, but also from the vast swaths of marginalized people whom it had sworn to democratize. Out of this constellation has followed the rise of fundamentalist movements and strong communitarian feeling within each group and sectarian identities who felt alienated from each other. The recent political development in India have witnessed conflicts and tensions between the majority communities and minority communities in many parts of the country, thus rendering the question of minority group rights and protection of their identity central to the political discourse in India. In this backdrop, now we will look further for the constitutional rights of the minorities in India. Much has been already talked about it by the other panelists, the constitutional provisions related to it. So I will not, I'm not going to repeat that again. But specifically, I'll talk all the things specifically related to the identification of religious and linguistic minority rights and minority rights and the related constitutional provisions and case related to it. As I have talked in the initial part of my discussion only, that recently, last year in July 2022 only, the Honorable Supreme Court of India had held in one of the leading cases that the minority status of religious and linguistic communities is a state-dependent matter. And Justice U. Lalit was one of the bench judges in that decision. And in the petition, the court was hearing a petition complaining that the follower of Judaism, Baha'ism, and Hinduism who are the real minorities in Ladakh, Mizoram, Lakshadweep, Kashmir, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Punjab, and Manipur cannot establish and administer educational institution of their choices because of non-identification of minority at the state level, thus geobarring their basic right guaranteed under Article 29 and 30, about which the other panel member have already talked much about. So I'll not waste the time on discussing the same time. And the bench was opinionated in this particular judgment that it was held that the person in India can be a minority in one state or the other. So a religious or linguistic community that is a minority in a particular state can inherently claim protection and right to administer and run its own educational institution under Article 29 and 30 of the Constitution. And for that, what is the requirement of the hour or need of the hour? It is the requirement of a notification as minority, because in this particular case, the Honorable Court has already told or held that it is a state matter. Then such notification from state is required. The court asked in this case whether a specific notification declaring such non-dominant communities as a minority in a particular state was required to be issued at all or not. The Hindus residing in certain states were unable to exercise their rights under Article 29 and 30 in the absence of specific notification declaring them a minority. So, bearing this case in mind, what could be the issues that are involved with defining the religious and linguistic minorities? We can say like that. The primary concern is the general perception that since Hindus were majority, they cannot claim minority status in states where they were definitely a minority. Hindus are mere 1% of Ladakh, 2.7%, 75% in Mizoram, and 2.77% in Lakshadweep, 4% in Kashmir, and 8.74% in Nagaland, 11.52% in Meghalaya, and 29% in Arunachal Pradesh, 38.49% in Punjab, and 41.29% in Manipur. The recognition of Muslims, Christians, Sikh, Buddhist, and Parsis nationally by the centers as minorities ignored the fact that religious communities like Hindu were socially, economically, politically non-dominant and numerically inferior in several states. In the case of linguistic minorities in Punjab, Hindi-speaking people are in minority. Likewise, the people who speak all other languages except Hindi are a minority in Delhi. But there is no notification issued per se that these people are a minority in Delhi. Kannada or Tamil speakers are a minority in Maharashtra. But there is no notification in these states. So, the dire need of such notification is there. And if you'll see the section 2C of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992, it gives unbridled power to the center to notify minorities. And if you see the TMA 5 case, the apex court stated that for the purpose of Article 30, the rights of the minorities to establish and administer educational institutions, religious and linguistic minorities have to be considered state-wise. That is very important, to consider it state-wise. While we talk about minorities in India, if you see in the year 2005, the Union government notified 5 communities: Muslims, Christians, Sikh, Buddhist, and Parsis as minorities at national level. In 2014, the then government notified followers of Jainism as minority communities, making them sixth on the national list. As per the census 2011, percentage of minorities in the country is about 19.3% of the total population of the country. The population of Muslims are 14.2%, Christians 2.3%, Sikh 1.7%, Buddhist 0.7%, Jain 0.4%, Parsis 0.006%. And now, as other panelist member have already talked about 29 and 30, Article 30, one constitutional provision is still left from the point of view of this particular case law is Article 350A, about which I will be talking. This particular section or article talks about that there shall be a special officer on linguistic minorities to be appointed by the Honorable President, and it shall be the duty of that special officer to investigate all the matters related to the safeguards provided for the linguistic minorities Constitution, report to the President upon those matters. Now, the last part of my area is what are the national bodies and organizations preserving the rights of the minorities. So we have in our country National Commission for Minorities, NCM, and it was established in the year 1978. And it was emphasized in the Ministry of Home Affairs and Resolution. And in the year 1884, the minority community was detached from the Ministry of Home Affairs and placed under the newly created Ministry of Welfare, which excluded the linguistic minorities from the Commission's jurisdiction in 1988. In 1992, with the enactment of NCM Act 1992, MC became a statutory body and was renamed as NCM. The first National Commission for Minorities with a statutory status formed in 1993. And all the members of this commission consist of 7 members, which includes a chairperson and a vice chairperson, along with 5 other members. All the members of the commission must belong to the minority communities and enlisted under minorities from among the person, eminence, and ability and integrity. And every member of the commission should hold the office for a period of 3 years, and they would be responsible for handling all the matters related to the minority communities. So with this discussion, I tried to summarily give an overview of all the aspects for the question which was asked by Reshu. So if there is any question, I would like to answer it post all the panel discussion at the end. Thank you, Reshu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving a wonderful discussion for the question. And I would request you, all of you, to please rejoin after a short break. Welcome back, respected members. May I request Dr. Prashant Kumar Srivastava to please give his opinion regarding the challenges and problems faced by the minorities in India. Sir, could you please elaborate what steps should be taken by the government and administration to improve their conditions?
Okay. Thank you, Reshu, for giving me opportunity to speak in panel discussion, which has been on Minority Day. So I would like to say that minorities are always marginalized, and they have been the target of hate politics in India. Violence against these communities have existed since the formation of Indian nation state. So the trajectories of these recent incidents reveal India's commitment. I think we have seen many incidents regarding minorities rights violation in last few decades. So India's commitment to communities versus India's commitment to equal citizenship was main problem. The political balancing act, which worked well in the first decade of independence, is proving impossible to sustain over long haul. In last few years, we have seen that there are main problems which are faced by minorities are discrimination, or you can say prejudice, problem of identity, problems of security, problems relating to equity, problems relating to communal tension and riots, and failure to stick on strictly to secularism. So we can say these situations need to be evaluated critically to give minorities in multicultural societies their perspective and place in democratic policy. Democracy is significant here, not simply in terms of free speech and other things. It is significant because its overall purpose is to bring different point of view and different sensibilities into constant creative interaction, as truth can only come out of intercultural dialogues. Modern societies in Western countries have adhered the federalism, sub-national constitutions, regionalism, and affirmative action to protect the rights of minorities. But if we see in case of India, where the modernity of society is in quite early stage, both things, the federal package and affirmative action of politics are not designed to protect the rights of minorities from majoritarianism. Though many Western European countries which are not multicultural like India have been thinking seriously to be considered to the rights of non-majority group. So before me, all the panelists have discussed the sociological perspective of minorities' rights, legal perspective of minorities' rights. So there is no need to repeat these things. But I must say that adoption of rights and safeguards for minorities in Constitution and many other statutory provisions already fulfills these requirements. However, what we lack is political will of reinforcing these constitutional values by strengthening and fortifying them. As I say that secularism and equality may not be able to stand as a foundation concept by itself. Hence, there is need for a stronger political will in order to meet the challenges faced by minorities. And all what is need of time that all the authorities which has been constituted for the protection of rights of minorities need to perform their function honestly, and politicians are needed to understand the main value of secularism, as the judiciary has interpreted in SR Mumbai case, as first panelist of today's talk has always already expressed. So with this, I wish to stop my today's speech. Thank you again, Reshu, for giving me opportunity to speak on this important aspect, and best wishes for minority days.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving your views on the topic. Thankful to all of the members present here for spending your busiest time gracing the occasion. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds, and this is definitely encouraging us for our future events. We are in plan to organize more such events with you all in the future. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending the sessions and giving your views. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rishi.
Thank you, Reshu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.